All right. Welcome to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I'm Jason Green, and this is where I have to remind you to subscribe. If you like all these cool interviews, you've got to subscribe because that's the only way that we can keep this going. Now, let's talk about today's guest. Today's guest with his band has sold over 5 million records worldwide, won an American Music Award. He's been directed by the legendary Michael Bay, co-starred with Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston, and we are going to talk to him right after this. All right. I bet you didn't know all those things about today's guest. Let's welcome from Slaughter, Blas Elias. Hold on. Here he is.
Hey.
Good to see you, Blas.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. It's been a while since I've seen people other than my kids and family.
Yeah, that's for sure. And, it's funny. People think that all these rock stars are just sitting at home waiting to do interviews. But Blas is like Clark Griswold. He is the last of the true family men. He's had to reschedule 50 times. He's got Cub Scout meetings and whatever it is, he does it. So
yeah, we've outgrown the Cub Scouts, unfortunately, which those were some good times. But my son has moved on. It's weird because like when he was younger, I was afraid he was not going to catch the music bug, and so he didn't start playing music until it's like, maybe a few years ago. He started playing violin in school, but now he's really got the music bug. So we play together, we work on stuff, and we've gotten really close during this time. So we work out together.
How old is your son, Blas?
He's 15 now. It's just crazy how fast the time goes, and yeah, man, like, my daughter's 12. It's just unbelievable. Time is just flying by too fast. And you start to realize, man, like I only got a few good years left with them before they're out on their own, so I'm just trying to take advantage of the time.
Well, and in some ways, there are some good things that come out of being stuck at home. Now, Blas, do the kids know that this is Dad right here? Do they know that this pinup punk?
Yeah, they've discovered Google, so they've found a few things, and we every now and then we'll hear, like, we listen to Sirius XM in the car, and one of the songs will come on, and my son, like, so he's getting into music, and he's mostly into classic rock, so he knows music and kind of the history of where I come from, so that's cool. My daughter's not so much into it, I used to be like everything to her, and now I'm like the uncool dad.
Well, there he is, right there. Could there be a cooler dad than this guy? Blas, I was interviewing Mark Kendall from Great White, and I said, do you think maybe you didn't cross to the different audience because they were a little bit older than you guys? And I said people weren't hanging up the no offense to Audie Desbrow, but they weren't putting his pinup on their wall when they had a shirtless Blas Elias. This didn't hurt your career.
It could go either way, in one sense, that image kind of helped our band, me and Mark, and, we were in a lot of the teenage pinup magazines, and we had, that kind of vibe. But on the other hand, it kind of makes people not take it as seriously, so, I don't think, we like, especially from the male audience at the time, I don't think we were taken as seriously as some of the other bands, who didn't have that image.
Right. I mean, I guess we, that you can definitely tell that that's something that, the female audience is going to prefer. But like you said, at least it's something to have. A lot of bands didn't even have that. So I got some more pictures to make fun of you later. But plus, first of all, let's get it out of the way what everyone's thinking. Did you sell your soul to the devil to look so young still?
No, man, I'm feeling the years, so, I mean, I just, I try to take care of myself, like I exercise. My son now, that's another thing we bonded on is we did a workout this morning, we work out together, I run, we hike together, we go on adventures, so, I mean, it's just staying young, just as have a young mindset, I still, do things with the kids, climb, take them snowboarding, like water skiing, whatever it is, rafting, kayaking, I still have the, mindset that I'm, young, and there's nothing I can't do. You know what I mean? Because like once you get to the point where like I'm too old to do that, you start to slow down, and I just, I still feel mentally young, and I guess for my age, I feel pretty good. I can do things, like I said, with my kids, and that's one of the most important things for me is being able to do things. I wanted to, make sure that when they were old enough, we could snowboard together, we could hike together. My kid wants to climb Everest.
Wow.
So we'll see.
Well, obviously you got some good genes. You wanted to do this interview at 10 a.m. this morning, Blas, and I was thinking only one of us is up all night, sleeping all day, and that would be me now, because you're just up bright and early and ready to do things.
Yeah, it was 6:30, and getting the kids ready for school, and all that, which is at home.
That's true. That's right. Which is, at least they're safe. But, Blas, I've pitched you on this before. Just keep it in mind. Up all night skin cream, right? You say that you use it, that this is the secret, the fountain of youth. And I think you get you on a late night infomercial. You know what I mean, Blas?
It's going Shark Tank.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, okay, Blas, let's go back in time. You grew up in Texas. You're a young guy. You're into bands like Kiss. You find out that two of the guys are leaving the Vinnie Vincent invasion, which is Dana Strum and Mark Slaughter, and they're looking for a drummer. Tell me how you go about contacting them.
Well, I met Dana before. Actually, I met both of them before because I was friends with Bobby Rock, and we went to the same high school. He was a little older than me, but he graduated the year I was a freshman. But he was like a mentor to me, and not just drumming, but in some life things, staying healthy and fit and all this, stay away from drugs, but all that. He's a great guy. But so he got into the Vinnie Vincent invasion. He was their drummer, and it was a big deal around town. Everybody knew about it, and so he had gone off. And I'd actually at one point he'd asked me if I was interested in being a drum tech. I think they were going on tour with Iron Maiden, and I was in college at the time, and I was going to drop out of college to go be a drum tech for Iron Maiden, for Bobby Rock, wow. Vinnie Vincent, for Vinnie Vincent on that Iron Maiden tour. But then Bobby called me and said, "You know what, man? You're a drummer. You're too good of a drummer. You'll be wasting your talent teching. You should play." And so I didn't end up doing it, but I took a year off college, went on the road with some other bands. Actually, it was a band. One of the bands I was with was a band that he had left to go play with Vinnie Vincent, and so I kind of stepped in his shoes there to play with this band. We were called Nemesis, and it was actually a really cool band. But and so I met them when Vinnie Vincent came through town. They came to a club, and I got to meet Mark and Dana. They came out by the front door while Vinnie was playing a guitar solo, because he took 45-minute guitar solos. So I got to meet them, and they were really nice, and I remembered them, and hopefully they remembered me. But and then when it came time, when the band broke up, one of the guys who was in the band I was playing with was out in LA, visiting some friends, or trying to make his way, doing something, and he had saw a magazine, I think Band magazine, that they were looking for guitar player and drummer, and he called me. He said, "Hey, I'm going to audition as a guitar player for this band, and they're looking for a drummer too." And so I, found the address, and we sent in a little promo pack that I made with the cassette tape, my band, my playing, and some pictures. And Mark called me, and he said, "Hey," it was like a Thursday. He said, "We're auditioning on Saturday. We don't have really any money. We can't afford to fly you out here, but if you send us a videotape, we'll consider you." And at that time, I didn't even mention to him the Bobby Rock connection, because I didn't know if he remembered or not. But I was afraid, because I didn't know, how the split went, because Bobby wasn't with them, and so I didn't mention Bobby's name, but I knew someone was going to get the gig on that Saturday when they're auditioning. So I just decided, I'm going to go out there. My mom, scraped up some money and got me a one-way ticket to LA. And I called and left a message on Friday night, and I said, "Hey man, I'm coming out. Just reserve me a spot." And so he called me back, said, "Hey, we'll see, we got, one spot at the end of the day. Come on out." So I came out, stayed with my friend Joel in LA, who was another drummer I knew. And the last guy of the day, I went, I played with Mark, played with the guys, played with them. Mark asked me to play a few different styles, and play solo and whatnot. And we we just kind of clicked, and so after I was done, he said, "Hey, you want to come check out our apartment?" And so I went over, hung out with the guys, and I just stayed. And I never went home. I had just one small duffel, and that was kind of it.
That one-way ticket obviously worked out.
Yeah.
And, Blas, you beat out a lot of talented drummers. A lot of people were looking for that gig. One of them who was in consideration was Nick Menza, who went on to be
Nick. Yes, awesome drummer.
Yeah,
he was great. It's a bunch of guys that were really good that auditioned, and I think if any gig, it comes down to not just your playing. It's chemistry. It's a shared vision of what you think the band should be, and so when I went to the guy's place, they played me some of the songs they're working on, went through demos, and they asked me about drum parts and what I'll do here and there, and I think we just clicked, and so it just kind of, they didn't tell me officially I had the gig for a while. We just kind of stayed working together, and then it just evolved. And I went some of the process with them of looking for guitar players, and it was the same thing where we were just looking for the right guy. And I think it was really important for them because they'd had such a bad personal relationship with Vinnie Vincent, and he isn't a super talented guy. Even Mark and Dana would be the first one to tell you, Vinny's a super talented guy. Personally, things just didn't work, and
he was supposed to be a complete nightmare to work with. I mean, those guys say he was really a hard guy.
Yeah, some of the stories I've heard. But so it was really important for them to have guys that they could ride on tour bus with and enjoy the company, and actually enjoy working with. And so we had a good relationship, and so we had a good time. And there's a lot of bands that have when they tour nowadays, they're in the different tour buses. They don't see each other until they're on stage, and we're still to this day, we're good friends, man. We're we're never any bad blood between any of us, which is it's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, like you said, very rare. Mm-hmm. So things happen fast, which is amazing how fast they happen. But you guys were recording this album. It comes out in 1990. This is Stick It To You. And so tell us a little bit about, how fast it really happened.
I mean, when it came, it seemed like it took forever to get the record out. We recorded it. We started in the end of 1988, recorded through 89, and then didn't come out until May of 1990. So it seemed like it took forever for the record to even come out, and but when it finally came out, we had they had already established kind of like a fan base through their time with Vinnie Vincent, and since they were the kind of friendly, really fan-oriented guys, they kept in touch with through mailing lists, and they had a voicemail hotline that they kept it. They call people, and they were really like I said, great with staying in touch with fans, and so we just before the record came out, like we're calling people, we'd go down this, corner on, I forgot what street it was in LA. We'd buy like stolen, long distance phone cards to use. And we just sit there all night dialing, fans and talking to them and telling them about the record. And we, get addresses out of the back of magazines, like Metal Edge magazine stuff. We get the addresses out. We'd write postcards to people who were like pen pals, so we did all kinds of, kind of guerrilla fan marketing. So by the time the record came out, and we give, they give us a shot on Dial MTV, like our numbers were fairly good, from the get go for a new band, and so that that helped, to get MTV to take notice of us. And when we
you
did
were
our
ahead of your time with that grassroots marketing. Bands weren't really onto that yet, and you guys were working it hard. Yeah,
Michelle Siddiqui, who I've recently reconnected with, who was the head of our fan club, Slaughter International. She was in a huge part of that too, and the building of our fan base, and so we had this idea too, like our first video, we shot the video, and we put the number to our hotline. I'm like, I still have that thing, the Space for Redhead. I've got it back here somewhere.
You do? Oh, wow.
Yeah, let me see if I can have my Space for Redhead somewhere here. I was just redoing the room, so I was getting out some of my old stuff. But
how cool!
So we put this. This is the head from the Up All Night video, and it had our hotline phone number in it. And so And on the hotline, we ask them to leave their phone number, and we'd call them and tell them to vote for our video on Dial MTV. And it worked like crazy, and so we were number one, like, for forever on MTV until they found out and they called the number. And it caught back then, before digital editing of videos, we had to have, someone hand paint out the phone number on our video frame by frame. They wouldn't play anymore.
Yeah, you guys got a little
worked, it was a pretty awesome move.
So I want to talk about that Up All Night video. That video was directed by the legendary Michael Bay.
Yeah.
And, Michael Bay's directed every Hollywood blockbuster, Transformers, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. I think these are all his movies.
We just watched Pearl Harbor with the kids, and I had to make sure I told them, that's the guy who did our video.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what happened. A little bit of a cool point there.
Yeah, well, it's good to have kids so you can share your accomplishments.
Yeah.
And Michael Bay was directing a lot of rock music videos at the time. But what are your memories of him? Did you have any idea that this guy is going to go on to be a superstar?
I mean, we knew he was good. We'd seen, I don't think he had done, there wasn't any videos that he had done prior to us that were popular, but he had done some beer commercials. And Dana or Mark saw this commercial. He's like, I want our video to look like this, whatever it was, beer commercial. It was the kind of the dark alley street, with all those bright colors and the stuff he does and the movement and all. He has a distinct style, and they wanted that for our video. And so they contacted him, through our agent, about doing the video. And I thought maybe we might have been his first. I'm not really sure, music video. But it came out, I think really well. We were all really happy with the video. He did a great job. He was a really nice guy. And obviously, talented director, So I feel privileged that we got him, to work on that video. It's kind of a cool thing to say,
Yeah, it's a standout video. As you're saying, it does not look like your typical live space video. I wanted to ask you, one of the actresses in the video she wrestled for the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Is that right?
Yeah, Becky Mullen.
Yeah, she also passed away recently.
I'd heard from one of her friends she passed away, and we were friends. We became friends after that video. She's a super nice girl, and that was sad. It's you get older, man. More and more people, every day you grew up with, you lose it. Your age, But yeah,
she was Sally the farmer's daughter for people who watched Glow. It was huge at one point, and now the TV show Netflix, I think, brought it back. Who did she play in the video?
She was the kind of Marilyn Monroe-ish girl with the glasses and the black dress that blows up over the, air vent, like the classic Marilyn Monroe scene,
Yeah. Okay. So now, Blas, your first tour is with Kiss. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. We hadn't even played any live gigs, prior to that first tour date with Kiss. And it's sad, because I'd gone back through Lubbock with Trans Siberian Orchestra a few times, and they just tore down the arena that we played that first time, which was kind of sad for me because that had such great history and memories for me. But that was in Texas for me.
Hometown.
Texas, well, not hometown there, but home state.
Home state. Sorry.
Starting in Texas, and just the nerves. Like Dana and Mark would tell stories about how they opened for Vinnie Vincent. And they would just get, well, I can't do it, on camera, but, people would stick the finger at them, and was not accepting of that band, in front of Iron Maiden, and they had to work really hard to overcome that. I think that's where, they got some of their stage, presence from is having to fight for a crowd who doesn't want you there, but so we were all really nervous, like, these Kiss fans are super, super loyal. Are they going to take to us, and man, it was scary, but they, it was great. The fans really took to us, and I think helped, to make, get Slaughter to where we, ended up being, because that Kiss fan base was a huge part of that too, I think.
And on this tour, you're touring with some amazing drummers. At times, Rod Morgenstein from Winger, who's one of the greatest drummers. And then Eric Carr playing with Kiss, which would end up being his final tour. I actually saw the final show, which was Madison Square Garden.
What a night! Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great guys. I mean, Rod Morgenstein, I used to sneak in to see him playing with the Dregs, what was it? The Dregs was, and another band he was with, and there was a club called Cardi's in Houston. And me and my friend Margie, we'd sneak in, and he would get us in the back door, because he knew I was a fan as a drummer, and so I just bother him and tell him I'm such a big fan of that. So he'd sneak us in the back because I wasn't old enough to get in. And it was maybe like 3-4 years later that we're on the tour with him, and just such a wild, crazy moment to be touring with this guy who I just idolized, along with Eric Carr, both these. I mean, it was just a crazy moment, crazy time, man. That's,
Crazy nights, I think, is what they call it.
Yeah.
To get a Kiss pun in. So it's pretty amazing. And, we should also say that at that point, Kiss, I think, was trying to identify more with bands like Slaughter. I think, maybe Kiss fans would argue, but, by putting out their ballad and things, I think Kiss wanted to appeal to a little bit of a younger audience. MTV was different. And so I think that having you guys on the bill was actually helping them as well.
Yeah. I mean, they were super good to us. I mean, Kiss was great band to work with, man. The guys were totally pro. I mean, people can say what they want about Gene, but he was total pro. Paul was great. Great work ethics. I mean, again, for me, part of the reason I never ended up getting into doing drugs and drinking is because of guys like Gene and who were crazy rocker guys, cool people I looked up to, but at the same time said, hey, I don't have to do drugs or drink alcohol to do what I do, So it was a really cool thing being on that tour with those guys and telling them about my experiences. They're great.
Yeah, I can imagine. So do you win the American Music Award on this album, or is that the second record?
Yeah, first record. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what that's like.
I mean, going to the award shows was crazy. Like, because it wasn't just, it was just a few years after I had been like, teenager, watching all these other artists on TV, and I remember we're going through like one of the press lines where they're taking pictures of all the people coming in, and we're standing there, and I end up somehow next to John Bon Jovi, and I'm just, like I said, guy I've been watching MTV, and he says to me, he's got sunglasses on. He says, hey, I don't wear these because I think makes me look cool. I wear this because with all these cameras around, I don't have to worry about which camera I'm looking at. But I thought it was cool just being there and like talking to this guy.
Yeah, and did you guys got to meet Dick Clark, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got to meet Dick Clark. We did Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's. Celine Dion and Will Smith presented our award to us, which looking back now, like at the time, I didn't realize, how big of stars those people were going to become, or just both.
Where's your American Music Award, Blas?
Where is it? I don't know. I'm redecorating.
We'll insert a photo or something, but.
Yeah.
So, Blas, things are happening big for Slaughter. I mean, and like you said, you built a loyal fan base. You stayed in touch with them. You guys spent time signing the autographs and taking the pictures and getting to know these people. And what's interesting is, in some ways, you would think that you might have been a little late to this scene. 1990. Bands like Guns N' Roses, Faster Pussycat. These bands were out in '87, and so there's a lot of bands that were coming out the same time as you that were not having as big a success as you were. That first record going to double platinum, this is huge. Most bands didn't get that extra shot. They might have got a ballad out, might have went gold, but to go as big as you guys did, you had to be thinking is going to the next record that this is going to just keep going.
We caught the very tail end of that, of the wave, of the 80s style music. And I think, like we could feel changes coming, I mean? Like I remember I had some friends that I used to go snowboarding with, and I remember we're going up to Utah snowboarding and hearing the first Nirvana record coming out, which this was, during the making of our second record, I think. And I remember hearing that record and I thought, wow, and I just knew things were changing. I could feel the vibe, and some of the people I was snowboarding with were a little bit younger, and I could kind of, see where, their tastes were heading. So I kind of feel some of that coming on. But I loved them. I love Nirvana. I think for me, like the whole genre, like it was kind of sad. And I think it affects people, like especially like people I look at like Janie Lane. I'm a huge fan of Janie, man. Like I one of my favorite times touring with those guys is I'd go watch him doing his acoustic set in the middle of their set. And he's such a great songwriter, you know what I mean? And great singer, great performer. But people, for some reason thought they had to hate this genre. You know what I mean? It becomes like, cool to hate. And, I don't know if Beavis and Butthead had anything to do with it, but, it just somehow, society, tends to, like make you want to hate something when something else comes along, and I liked all those bands, man. I loved Pearl Jam, you know what I mean? And I think, it was sad that, MTV basically stopped playing that genre of music. I don't think they had to. I think, we could have coexisted, and it may not have been as popular as it had been, but I think we could have coexisted, but they just stopped playing it, like overnight.
I think you're right, and I think those bands could I think different styles of music could coexist now. You have different stations for different things, but at that
it's
point,
different now because back then it was really, I mean, in the 70s and the early 60s, radio was king, and radio kind of was the music makers, and the hit makers, and so, but you had different formats, and so there was lots of stations regionally who would have different bands. They'd break, but when MTV came along, it was one station. That was it. And radio you could get, maybe, one market and kind of have some success on the market if radio was really hitting somewhere, like we had a few areas where radio was still playing us. And, even when MTV wasn't playing us, we still had some success, but really without MTV, the whole machine just broke down, and you just couldn't get your music out there, and so it was really hard when they just cold turkey just stopped just overnight, like I think there was just a change in program directors, and they just decided, it's, out of favor, just time, I guess,
And before that happened,
like we had good numbers. I remember, our
record had some legs,
yeah. I mean, even our second record, that, like I said, when it came out, like we sold, I want to say like the first week, like over 80,000 records. And like we were moving, we had good numbers on the phone, everything was it seemed like it was going well. It's just MTV just kept shutting us down, and they would, like the videos, they'd say, oh, it's too sexist, or, as the girls are not dressed enough, and we'd have to redo edits.
What's wrong with sexy, Blas?
Exactly. But the crazy thing is we look at it, and so they would shut our videos down because, we had, girls wearing, scantily clad, whatever you want to call it. And then we'd see 24-hour heavy rotation on some of the hip hop videos that were, really heavily objectifying women, who were wearing next to nothing. And so I know it wasn't about the women. They just didn't want to play it. It's just, they decided for whatever reason, it was over.
Yeah. Now, on this, one of your videos, though, you had Shannon Doherty from Beverly Hills 90210, who was a big star in one of the videos, and she was clothed.
Yeah, she had to be. I think they realized at that time we couldn't do what we had done before. We tried to do anything we could to get on there. We'd get on at midnight, the 12 to 2 slot.
Did you get to meet her, or did they film that separate?
I didn't get to meet her. Mark was the only one that got to meet her. And so I don't know anything about her. I can't remember what his experience is with her. I know she has a bad kind of reputation, but who knows? Yeah,
well, everybody kind of had a reputation being young and famous, I guess, except for you guys. You guys were kind of squeaky clean, except, this is a segue, Blas. You're going into your third record, which is called Fear No Evil. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie, I just looked down and read that. And I mean, I don't know how much you can talk about this or how much you have talked about it, but Tim Kelly now, your guitar player, is involved in drug trafficking, and there's a delay to make your next record. One, Dana Strum gets injured in a motorcycle accident, maybe.
Yeah,
he should know better than anyone. Musicians shouldn't be riding motorcycles. But if you would have done it, Blas, oh my God, they would have gave you hell. But so what was going on with Tim Kelly at that time?
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't anything he was doing in the present time. And I can talk about because it's over. He's not with us anymore. But he, my understanding just from talking to him, and his friends is that he had been, and it was in a band or series of bands when he had moved from Pennsylvania to Los Angeles to make it in the music industry. And so what a lot of bands would do is they get what they call financial backers, because you had to have money to pay to play the clubs and get your gear and all this stuff. And so they had a financial backer who was a drug dealer, and he was into rock music, but he dealt drugs. And so what he would do is he would get the kids playing in his bands to carry packages for him. And so Tim was carrying a package to Federal Express, and I don't know if it was his first time, but apparently he was very nervous. So he goes into the Federal Express office and asked one of the people, "Hey, do they X-ray these bags, or they check these packages?" Whatever it was. It was not a professional trafficker. He's just a kid, and maybe it flagged something, or they had been watching this guy who had been receiving these packages, or whatever it was. So anyway, the guy who received the package ended up getting arrested. I guess they, intercept the package, caught him, goes to prison. This is before he was famous. This is, before Slaughter. And so, he's not doing that anymore. The guy's in prison. Tim's on Slaughter. He sees Tim on MTV and thinks, "Hey, I can make a deal with the, DA or whatever it is, to get, my sentence reduced, So he says, I'll give you this whole rocker drug ring, and I can give you this guy, Tim Kelly. He's in with all this, guys in the industry who do drugs, and but it wasn't true. Tim likes smokes marijuana, but he wasn't a drug dealer. That just wasn't him. And so they ended up, he lived just literally down the block from me, and they came, with all the, this FBI agents pulled up down his block, called him and said, you can come out, easily walk down the street and meet us, or, we're going to come in and it's going to be, a whole big deal with your neighbors. So he walked out, but we went through the whole court thing with him, and he was on probation, but it wasn't something that he was doing at the time. It was just an unfortunate thing from his past that someone brought up, so he had to do some time at Halfway House, but I think they knew what he wasn't, currently involved in drug trafficking.
Yeah, and so you guys had to use some subs here and there. I think
Dave Marshall played in Japan with us, and was there anybody else than Dave at the time? I don't know, but we did.
Yeah, and ultimately, he was able to put that behind him. You guys, that record, Fear No Evil came out, and then you continued to record records, and this was at a time when bands some were calling it a day. You guys were continuing to try to almost every 2 years put out these records. Revolution comes after Fear No Evil, and you were still touring, right? You guys were kind of jumping on some of the packages.
Yeah, I mean, it was the dark days, Later on, we got onto some. We started to realize that we could put some of these bands together and do like Rock Never Stops, where we'd have like Quiet Riot and Dokken and Poison and all these bands, and Ted Nugent. And so we, as a package, we could go back out and play some sheds and arenas, But there was a time, right, after, grunge came in, that we were playing like, the worst of it. I remember we were playing at some kind of laundromat in some college town. And
I think I might know there was a place called Sudsy Malone's. That might be the place.
It was Suds and something, and there was like a school bus where the lighting board was, and you could go to the next room. People were doing their laundry, and we pulled up the tour bus to this place. And it was like, what are we doing? But I mean, that's that's like I said, we that's what we do, man. We play music. We like making music, and so we just kept going.
Yeah, and. Okay, so we should point out that Tim Kelly tragically passes away before, I believe it would be the 5th Slaughter record. How did you find out that Tim had passed?
I was at Dana's house, and we had set up a studio in Dana's house because we'd all decided, like, we had a house in Vegas, and we recorded our first records, a couple records in LA. I think some of the third one too. After that, we're like, we can record at home. We're in Vegas, we spend less money. Digital technology is starting to happen, so we're recording. And actually, I think for that, we're mixing and mastering our live record that we're putting out, which ended up being called Eternal Live. And so I'm at Dana's house. It's the middle of the night. It's probably like 3 a.m, 2 a.m. We're working late, and I got a call from my girlfriend at the time. She had kept calling this, the line at the house there in her studio, and I'm like, man, it's weird. She just keeps calling, this time of night. So I picked up the phone, and she said she's crying, and she says Tim's been in an accident. They don't know anything, and we didn't know he was passed away at that time, So, but it's a bad accident, and so his brother, we got in touch with his brother, and I think while we were on the phone with his brother, I think the police officer came to his brother's house and told him that he had passed, So it was a bad night, and like, so we had been working on that record, listening to his guitar tracks, so it's hard time, for a few years, and that was tough, man. Trying to decide if we're going to continue on, or not, and we had a tour already booked, and I think it was coming up fairly quickly after that, But so we decided, like, we didn't want to, bring in anybody else, do any kind of auditioning, because like, it would be weird for us. So Jeff Blando, who had been our sound man, and he was, good friends with Tim, great player, super hard worker, got along great with everybody, and he had been there with us, and so we just decided we're going to go ahead and, try to, play some dates with him and see how it went. And he was great, so we just, we kept moving on. We thought Tim would want us to keep moving on. Like, he would have wanted the legacy of the band to go on, I think, so kept on, made a record with Jeff that I think is one of our best records. Actually, the couple of later records I think are some of my favorites, really,
Yeah, I think that's something with Slaughter's career. It's unfortunate, but some of the records that most people haven't heard is probably some of the best music. And the good thing, I say this with all the interviews I do, is now you can go and find that music very easily. I'm sure you can go to Spotify or YouTube or wherever, and turn yourself on to some music that you might not even known was out there.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't have, like, because we're making, like, the first record, it came naturally quick, and like, there was, just some kind of magic and some chemistry happened. The second record, I think there was some pressure, obviously, to kind of keep the momentum going, and the record company wanting certain types of songs.
That's what everyone tells me, Blas. Every band I've interviewed, they say when they got to that second record, all of a sudden there was a lot of outside influence that didn't make it.
So the process wasn't as fun, and I think it just, I think musically, our tastes, I think, some of the later records, we didn't have that pressure. We could just play kind of what we did. And we enjoyed, like, like some of the songs we made, like Unknown Destination off of, Fear No Evil. Yeah. Great. Like, we would have never put that on our second record, it's a metal song, and, because, we couldn't be too metal, for that second record, So we could play more kind of what we wanted, and so we had a lot more fun making it and playing it, live. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, so you go for a long time, but Blas, you eventually you're married, you have small children, and I think what's that?
They were small. They're getting big.
Yeah, and maybe I'm talking for you, but I believe touring wasn't as much as your interest at that point, being away from your family, and then the Blue Man Group was really a big part of your life here in Vegas. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that we had gone through a couple of tours without Tim, and there was some good times and some good some good tours we did, but there was also there was a little bit of darkness, I want to say, and we had all talked about taking some time off, and so And I think we needed it. Maybe there was some burnout going on with all of us. We decided, we discussed taking time off. And so, we're all kind of looking for things to do, I guess, projects, whatever. And a friend of mine, I had seen this PBS special in the Blue Man Group, and I was like, wow, what an amazing show this looks like. They were just putting it together, for Vegas. I mean, they've been in New York for a while doing their smaller kind of street performance thing, but they're putting together this bigger show in Vegas. And so I saw this PBS special, and I just thought, this is the most amazing, this coolest thing, and it looked like some kind of weird cult of people, it was like really, unusual art concept they had. And so ironically, right, after I seen it, a friend of mine said, hey, they just started the show, and they're kind of giving away some tickets. I got some free tickets to go see it. So I went to go see it, and just fell in love, and I can't remember how I heard it. It may have been the same friend who gave me the tickets, said, hey, they're starting to add more shows and looking for more musicians, and I thought, sure, I'll try it. It was weird, auditioning for something. I went on a cattle call for one of the drum spots, and it was weird, after Slaughter had been my life or so, I'm playing something different, I was scared, thinking like, what if I get this gig? What if I'm in here? Like, does that mean I can't be in Slaughter anymore? And I was kind of scared. I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. So I went, I played, and the vibe was good. And I started playing with them, and I wasn't sure, how it was going to go, but Dana called me and said, hey, I know we're talking about taking time off, but we got this tour offered to us, and it was Poison, big shed tour for that summer. And I just started playing the Blue Man Group, and he said, if it's not something you want to do, I understand. And so I made the decision I was going to try to do both, and so I talked to people at Blue Man Group, and they were really cool about it. And they said, hey, because it was mainly at that time we started doing fly dates where, you'd fly out, you play a few days in the weekend and you fly home. And so I was doing that whole summer. I did that tour with Poison on the weekends, fly back and play with Blue Man Group. And during the week, it was exhausting. You imagine flying back and I had no days off, and I just had decided, I think after that, I needed to stay home for a little while, and I think after that tour again, we again talked about maybe some taking some time off. And so I committed to Blue Man full time. And so when the tour rolled around the next summer, I talked to Dan and Mark about it. And I decided I was going to, sit out, and we got Bobby Rock, who, going back to my history with Bobby, he was my friend. He was, in Vinnie Vincent's Invasion with those guys. It just seemed like a good fit for him to, fill in the shoes, for a while, just in case I was, going to come back or in or whatever. And so he went and played, and then they just kept playing. I kept playing with Blue Man Group, and I never left the band, really. We're still friends. I never left the band. We went in different directions, and after I got into Blue Man Group, I was able to settle down, got married, had kids, and the trajectory of my life just took a different path. I didn't
there's definitely more stability towards your being at home in Las Vegas and playing the Blue Man Group. You're on a good salary. You've got benefits. That's a big far cry from being out in a rock band trying to jump on tours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you don't have to worry about with being a rock band. It's like, the next tour and being away. And, I didn't want to grow up, or have my kids grow up with me not being there for large periods of time. So it was a good time for me to, if I hadn't done that, I don't think I'd have the family I have now, so I'm very grateful. And it was a great experience, man. I learned a lot being in that show. The people I worked with were amazing. The show was amazing. The concept, and it was good for me personally, so it was a really good period of my life there.
And in that time, Blas, you got to play in Blood Pollution, which is the ultimate tribute to Steel Dragon. You became Donnie Johnson. Let's take a look right here.
There he is. Hey,
yeah.
That's this kit right here.
Really?
You see it here. Yeah. It's the same chrome Ludwig kit.
Hold on, let's take a look.
Here it is. I mean, what I've done here, it's the same drums, but I've converted them to electronics. So I don't have, because my son, who's right above me, he does homeschool. So, and I can't bother, playing all night. So, I've converted them all to electronics, and so I could play and change the sounds, and I can actually sample my own drums, and play it, and it feels like I'm, playing a real kit, because they're not like the electronic pads. It's mesh head. It's cool. I like it. I've kind of really gotten into the whole electronic thing.
So this movie comes out in 2001, but how do you get involved?
That was a fan, and God, I wish I could remember her name right now. She's gonna kill me for not, but through AOL, because I had these AOL chat rooms. This was actually it was back in the 90s, when I got involved with this movie, and a fan sent me an article about the concept, which was they're making a movie about Tim Rip Owens and Judas Priest, and I thought that sounds amazing. And they're looking. The article says they're looking for real musicians, and so I don't know if there was an email or something, but I contacted them, and I got a call back, and so I went out, and they had 2 auditions. The first one was playing, so we had a studio set up, and I go in and I play drums, and I spin my sticks and throw my sticks and flip my hair, and the people there are just like, "Oh my God, this is great! You can actually play," And so they sent me to the director, Stephen Herrick, who was a UT alum. We both went to University of Texas, and start reading some lines from him, and he goes, "You're not really an actor, are you?" So apparently a lot of the other guys who had been auditioning were actors who played, and so they couldn't really play. But he decided, they wanted to have real musicians who'd been in bands, who could help give him inspiration, and talk to him and tell him stories, so he could try to make the movie more realistic, And so I got the part. I originally read for the part of the drummer for the Steel Dragon, but they said I didn't look, old enough at the time. They were a little older, and also my British accent was terrible.
So they used Jason Bonham, right?
Use Jason Bonham, he's a great actor, man. That guy, he's just a natural. I'm surprised he hasn't continued to act, because he's just great, and great drummer. But great experience, man. I loved it. Some great guys we got to work with. I just talked through Twitter the other day, Brian Vander Ark from the Verve Pipe, who was a bandmate of mine, and what a great experience. Being on a movie set, had my own star trailer, just kind of, it was kind of like, like Forrest Gump. He just gets thrown into these crazy situations.
Yeah, like hugging Rachel from Friends.
Yeah. So, but yeah, living the life of a movie star and actor when you're not really one was just amazing, man. And so Jennifer, we're on the set of on the Warner Brothers, which is also they were filming Friends there, and so she's like, "Hey, we're filming tonight. Come see us, filming." So we got to go watch Friends being filmed, and I got to see Tom Selleck there because he was in one of the episodes, and meet Courtney Cox, and God, just what a cool experience, man, being involved in all that, and then going to the movie premiere and all these other famous people there and walking the red carpet, man. It was an awesome time.
Did you think that if you were single and she wasn't with Brad Pitt, that you maybe this would have been a shot for you?
No, Brad was cool. We actually, I love Brad, man, because I love the movie The Fight Club, and I was a big fan. So we talked about that for a while. He was a super cool guy, a lot bigger than I thought. You don't realize sometimes in person how, if someone's smaller than you think or bigger, and he's a big guy, he's tall, muscular, and so I was like, wow, big dude, but nice guy,
Yeah. Like you said, it's pretty surreal, you're this rock and roll drummer, and now you're hanging out with Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt, and you're on the set of Friends, and it all started with this guy. I couldn't find a bigger envelope for that one, but anyway, so let's talk a little bit more. So obviously that Rockstar, it's become this cult movie,
I still get checked. Amazing.
Yeah, it's got it makes a good drinking game kind of movie, or like a midnight show type of thing. So, okay, so how long was the run with Blue Man Group for you?
17 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, yeah. It got to be, the hardest part of my transition from Slaughter to Blue Man Group was the fact that my identity had become the drummer for Slaughter, And so going into this other thing where like we're anonymous there, I mean, like the whole point of Blue Man Groups, we're anonymous, and so the Blue Men are obviously Blue Men in blue paint, and the band we were costumes and face paint, and we're under black lights. So,
we should point out, Blas, you were not in the blue makeup.
I was not in blue makeup, yeah.
The band behind them still has a makeup that glows.
Yeah, tribal shamans, I think we call ourselves. But so that transition in leaving behind my identity, was hard, and then leaving that again was hard because that became Blas Elias with the Blue Man Group, and so it was hard again leaving that, and but honestly, it was time for me to move on, and I had kind of lost a bit of my old self there, because it was different. It was amazing art and music was great, but I grew up on rock and roll, and it wasn't rock music, I mean, there was elements of rock, but it wasn't a rock band, and so I missed that, and I honestly I didn't think I would ever do that again, being there, I thought I'm too old now, it's past my time, I'll never be there again, and the first time I think I ever played back out doing rock was with Sin City Sinners at the Green Valley Ranch Casino with you guys, and I was so nervous because I hadn't done it in so long, and so I tried to practice, but man, I was like, it was terrible.
At that point,
Blas, watching those videos because it was terrible.
Well, at that point, Blas, you hadn't set up your own drum kit in 20 years. Between Slaughter having a drum tech and the Blue Man Group, for you to go back and have to do it yourself is a whole new world again. That's
the thing. Like if I play gigs, they're not paying me to play; they're paying me to travel and set up gear. Because I'm playing, I'll do for free. But no, man, like it was weird getting back, I guess, because I wasn't used to those. The whole rock thing's just a different thing, I mean, than what I was doing, and it was scary. It was alien to me at that point. And I was, I realized, God, man, I missed this. It was a really good experience, and so I started doing a few more. It just kind of got me back into doing that. And I thought, maybe I could do this again. And I've had a really, really good run. Been really fortunate, so we did Sin City Sinners, and then I got a call from these guys, the Tenors of Rock, who were a band from England, Scotland, and so and
show on the Strip,
yeah, super talented guys. And I had met Chris Caccino, who's the guitar player for Rock of Ages, at the Rock of Ages show, which I went and saw. Loved it, it's another. I love that show. It's amazing. The movie's okay, but the show was super, super awesome show. And Chris was just the ultimate rock god guitar player, so I went to him afterwards. I just want to tell you, I'm just a huge fan, man. You're amazing what you do. And so then he called me, and asked if I'd be interested in doing this thing with these guys, Tenors of Rock. And I'd listened to it, and they're just another group of super talented singers, man. And so we did a couple of, showcases, here in Vegas, and we did a show in Hawaii. And so when they put together the show in Vegas, we started off at Harrah's, and I got to, start playing rock on a regular basis again, And so I, became the full-time drummer there while still doing Blue Man Group, and then raiding the Rock Vault. I heard from it was a guy who I'd met through Facebook, who Manuel Alzaga, who is a writer. He's a principal at high school, but he's a music historian, writer, and he was doing a book called what is it? La Vida. It's a book about Hispanic people in metal music, and so he interviewed me for the book, and so we became friends. And then he called me and said, "Hey, I'm friends with Jay Shellen, he was from Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Jay was from," and said, "Hey, Jay's looking for someone to help, play Raiding the Rock Vault when he's not in it." And so, I went and met with those guys, and
Raiding the Rock Vault, for those who don't know, is a show in Vegas that plays, tribute to classic rock. Has a lot of famous people in the show.
Yeah,
and played a lot of shows.
It was a great, amazing show, and it was scary for me because it was Howard Leese, you know what I mean, and Hugh McDonald from Bon Jovi, and all these amazing players, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people, and so I was scared because I hadn't been doing this in a long time on a regular basis. But luckily, because of I've been doing Tenors of Rock and Cincinnati Sinners, it kind of helped get me back up to speed a bit. So I got in there, and at first I was a little shaky, but kind of got into the groove as a sub for Jay there. And then when he left to play with Yes, I got the call to do that full time. And I think that was about the time I ended up leaving Blue Man because they were downsizing. And so that, I was doing that. And then, we'll get into, if you went into the Trans Siberian Orchestra.
We'll get onto that because that's sort of towards the end of it. But, Blas, I think your time in Blue Man improved your drumming and also your reputation. We look at all these pinups and we laugh, and I think people just assume, oh, that's Blas Elias. But they didn't realize that you really were a drummer and in all styles. It wasn't just, you could do a lot more than Slaughter. And when we had you playing with Sin City Sinners here, we would bring in guests every week, and you would have to learn these wacky songs. No two are the same, and you had a week to come back and play these songs, and so and different styles, and to see you play, I think everyone really was, sort of blown away that at your playing, and also at what a great guy you are. You talked early about Slaughter, how you want to find a band that can sit on a bus together. Every time I've put together a band, I think, would I want to sit on a plane with this guy? Would I want, because I've been with a lot of people who I wouldn't, who I never want to see again. And so to have a guy like you, because we took some trips to Texas. Remember, Blas? We played some cool shows, and you turned us all on to Papacitos, the best.
Papacito, I'm missing it.
Best Mexican restaurant or food chain. And they had it in the airport. I remember, Blas, you'd have it at the show, and then you'd have it at the airport. We
carry it home. On the plane and smelling up the whole airplane. I'm sure people would appreciate that.
We did some fun things, and some of them were very grassroots. I remember we went to Utah. Every now and then I thought to myself, this is the time that Blas is going to say, I'm not doing this anymore. We went to a club that did no promotion, and we brought a band that we had never played with. It was Jeff Duncan from Armored Saint on guitar, Frank Domino from Angel, and then Scotty Griffin. And there was nobody there. We didn't know if we were going to get paid. And I told you, just wait until I get the money before we play the first note. And, but somehow you always, were that team player who came through and did those shows. And that goes for these charity events, with Sin City Sinners. We did these charity events. You were the first one to run for charity, walk for charity, help shave fans' heads for charity, whatever it is. And so I got to say, Blas, I've worked with a lot of people. You are definitely a dependable and good guy.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And like I said, I appreciate my time with you guys, man, because, it was kind of the start of me kind of getting back into playing rock music, so.
Well, and I really did.
That catalyst,
This was our shot because I wanted you to play forever. My goal for the Sin City Sinners was always to be somebody at each position who had multi-platinum status or was recognizable. I didn't want to have local guys, but you were very busy. And so when the change was happening, it's like, let's just jump on it and see if Blas can do as much as he can. And it's funny, the other day I was talking to Jizzy Pearl about doing some shows after, things open again. And I said, well, we're going to start with Blas again. Everybody's starting fresh. We're going to see where Blas is at. So anyway, but that's some of the later years. Then Trans Siberian Orchestra comes about, which is a major holiday show that plays arenas. Yeah. And tell me how that offer comes about for you.
Like I said, I had an incredibly good run of luck. I don't know what else you'd call it, but where I went, from Sin City Sinners, I got into, and then Rejoining the Rockfall, Tenors of Rock, and then out of nowhere. I get and I'm not really good at social media, so I don't get on much, and do promotion, whatever. And I didn't really, have anything to promote, honestly. But I have a Facebook page, my Blas Elias page. And I don't check very often. I didn't check it hardly at all back then because I wasn't even playing out much, And so I decided, what, so I'm going to check it. I hadn't checked it in months, and I get all these messages on there all the time, and it's still so hard. I try to go through them, they pile up. And it just so happened this one day I decided to check. Right at the top of the list, there's an email from one of this Trans Siberian Orchestra people. And she asked me if I would be interested. So they were looking to hire a drummer, and asked if I'd be interested in it. And I thought it was a joke at first, just some fan, because I'm like, Trans Siberian Orchestra, it's a huge, huge gig, man. It's a huge deal, and they're not only, very successful, but, the caliber of musicians is just phenomenal, so I'm like, it's gotta be just some fans just kind of trying to get me to talk to them. So, but I thought, man, it's Trans Siberian Orchestra, so I got to at least follow up, and so I contacted her back, and sure enough, man, she's legitimate, and so she said, that they had been looking to add, another drummer for their West Coast tour, and so she said, they sent me some tracks and play along with these tracks we're sending you, and send me a video, of yourself playing with it. Sent the video, and they watched me play, and coming back and said, hey, everybody likes you, we're going to bring you out and to play with the band, and so they're headquartered in Florida, where their Night Castle studios are, and so I was, playing and going out, and then Paul O'Neill, who was the founder and director of Trans Siberian Orchestra, passed away, and it was an extremely hard time for them because he was such a huge part of that, and I didn't know if it was still gonna happen, but they called me and they said Paul wanted this to go on. He'd already talked about he wanted to go on even after he was around. He just, it's his art he's putting into the world, and so they brought me out. I played with the guys, and we just clicked, and seemed to get along personally, and so that it's just, I remember going after the audition, going to the beach, in Florida, and just sitting there and thinking, wow, man, this is crazy. Like, I thought, just a couple of years ago, I'd never be playing music again, not even in a club, and then here I am, like, possibly playing in arenas again, and so I came home, and I took my kids on a vacation to see my family in Houston. We're at Six Flags, and I got stuck with my son on a roller coaster, and we're hanging upside down on this roller coaster because it was one of these ones that like flips around, and we're stuck. We're hanging there upside down, like 20 minutes, and I get a call when I'm hanging there, and it's TSO management. They say, hey, want to let you know everybody loves you. If you want the gig, you got the gig. And it's just the craziest thing, But it's been an amazing experience. The show, if you haven't seen it, it's just mind blowing. The production is huge. Our lighting designer and stage designer lives here in Vegas, and great, super talented guy. Everyone there, musicians, the crew, the directors, right? Such an amazing organization to be a part of, man. Just so grateful to be there.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing. You're on this giant drum riser going way up in the air, and it is definitely a return to rock.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, like the first part of the show it's the story, like the Christmas story, and they've gone through a few different stories that Paul wrote, and so we have a narrator, and we have like multimedia, effects, through the whole arena. It brings everyone in. There's no bad seat in that house because there's stages in different areas of the arena. There's effects that happen everywhere, and there's this story that goes to the first half of the show, and it's great for families, and people to get into the Christmas holiday spirit, and so you get all these people there who are there for this holiday tradition, and they know the Christmas music, and then you have the metal people, because Trans Siberian Orchestra was born out of Sabotage, so you have the metal people that come, and the second half of the show, like, we'll play some Sabotage songs and some metal stuff and some progressive stuff, and so we get this mix where you'll have like these families sitting next to these metalheads, and it's a crazy mix of people, but it's just the coolest thing, and you'd think when we start playing the heavier stuff and all the crazy lasers are going to fire in the second half of the show, that you'd get some of the, the older people in the fans leaving, but they don't. They love it. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. And so you did that for 2 seasons. And then this prior holiday season, obviously due to the pandemic, it was postponed. But hopefully this year that it comes back, because it's a tradition. And so let's hope that can happen.
I think 3. I did 17, 18, 19, 20. We didn't make it, but we're moving on this year. Like, we're planning on playing, and so unless, things are looking good. That show, the production, they said it's so big, we have to move. The wheels have to be in motion by now. So
Right.
We're planning on going, and if something happens, obviously, we won't be able to. But things are hopefully looking good. The news is, reporting the caseloads are going down and this and that. So we're hoping by the fall that we'll be back up and running and playing again.
Yeah, which is great. Now, Blas, I got 2 more questions for you, and then I'll let you get back to real life. Slaughter, you're playing with Slaughter again, right?
Yeah. And again, that's just something that it happened because I had I'd been doing all these other things, and so Mark called me and he said, because Slaughter, the rest of the band at the time was Vince Neil's band, and so Vince loves to play, man. He's always touring, and so there were times when Mark, had shows that he wanted to do, and his band was already booked for Vince. So he asked if I would be interested in coming to play with him, on these dates, where there wasn't, he didn't have his full band, and so I thought, yeah, man, this is, like, that was me, man. That was my life, it was such a huge part of my life, and so I'm like, absolutely, I'll be there. And so we went out, and it was me and Mark, and we had a couple of different guys. We had Michael Sterito on guitar and Jamie Millard on bass, and we had a great time, and I just, it felt like home, man, playing with those guys again, So we just kept playing, and we just it felt so good, and we talked about maybe just bring me back, full time, when we were all available to do it again, and so we did some shows, and it was great, man. Like I said, that was a huge part of my life, and I still love those guys, and I love the music, it's a part of me, So, we have, sometimes, like, if I'm unavailable, like Will Hunt plays, who's amazing drummer, and so, like when I'm out with TSO, he'll play, and it's just, it feels good.
Well, Blas, you don't have to say anything. I'm going to say it for me, though. I'm so glad that you're back, because I didn't like the other guy. I can say it. It was ridiculous. If you didn't know, for while Blas was busy doing other things, that they had this guy, and he would jump up and down, and he was juggling, and I think the idea was to sort of, take the.
Well, I love Zoltan. Zoltan is so super talented at what he does, man. Like, he has a gift, and I don't know if it was necessarily right for Slaughter.
That's what I think. I don't think it's right for Slaughter, and I don't think it's right for Vince Neil, because it's a little bit distracting from the music and the songs and the guys who wrote and performed those songs. You got the Cirque. Listen, if he was in a Cirque show and he wanted to jump around, then I think it's good. But listen, we've given him enough time. It's good that you're back. The final question, Blas: have you ever Googled your own net worth?
I have not. No.
Yeah. Well, I'm warning you, because I don't think you want the kids to do this. Because if the kids find out what you're allegedly worth, Blas, they're never going to get a job. First of all, though,
hopefully they want to. We'll see this, because they ask me all the time. But
they want to know what they're getting.
Yeah, I've been lucky, man. I've invested. I've started investing, a long time ago in real estate. And so I've had residential real estate, and got into some small commercial real estate. I've bought stocks. I've got some good stocks, Apple and Tesla and Netflix. And
Blas, if this number I read is real, I should have been nicer to you.
No, I doubt it. Whatever that is, but I'm comfortable. I'm very, very fortunate, very lucky, man. Like, that I've been able to spend the time that we have here with my family. You
You definitely have a great story, Blas, for all these people who have these tragic rock and roll stories, and sadly, there's a lot of them. You've had a great career. It's a wonderful life, Blas Elias, and a great family. And but I want to point out, though, when you look up your net worth, the reason why you should know there might be a problem is the picture that they use is another drummer from the Blue Man Group. It's not even you.
Oh no.
But I'm going to run the number by you when we say goodbye to everybody, and you tell me if this number is even close. Because if it is, Blas, I don't know why you play the drums. Why, no wonder it's hard to get a hold of you.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah. I'm thankful. I'm lucky, man. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. So yeah, I'm blessed. I'm fortunate. Very happy to, like I said, I could take the time during the quarantine to, spend with my family and, and not have to worry about,
Yeah, well, it's a great story, Blas. I'm glad to be friends with you. You're a great guy. Thank you so much for doing this today. And people can check you out on the Facebook page that you don't respond to.
I try.
Look, listen, you're a very wealthy man, Blas. I don't think you have time for this. So, all right. That's the waste of time.
Yeah,
I always forget to say, people have to subscribe. You know how this works, Blas. We need people to subscribe.
They hit the bell or something like that.
I hate to be that guy. But thank you, Blas. You could hit the bell to get post notifications. You could smash the like button. You can comment, and listen, it all helps, and I appreciate it. And I hope that we bring some entertainment to people while they're stuck at home.
Yeah, hopefully so. All right, good to talk to you, man.
Blas. We'll talk soon.
Oh, hey, we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
The record Cincinnati Sinners made that,
I'm trying to forget it, Blas.
No, that was. I mean, I love that record. I still listen to it sometimes, man. What's the Shakespeare song?
I think that one's good. I wrote it though.
Love that song.
With Scotty Griffin.
Yeah.
There's a Sin City Sinners record called "Let It Burn," and somehow we convinced Blas to play into it. We made this record in Cedar City, Utah, and me and Scotty Griffin wrote a song. I brought it to him with the idea of what if we wrote a song about Romeo and Juliet, but instead of how much they loved each other, they killed each other because they hated each other. And
great song. I love it.
Yeah, Star-Crossed Haters. And so each verse or whatever had a different time signature, and eventually it turned into this crazy heavy metal song. But I appreciate you mentioning it. And yeah, we should put that out. But anyway, okay, Blas.
All right, Jason.
We'll talk soon.